Mathew Barzal addressed the media on Monday, talking about his readiness for the upcoming season after an injury-plagued year last year. We have the key takeaways and what it means for the Isles next on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to the Tuesday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. We have got a lot to discuss. I'm Gil Martin. I've been covering the New York Islanders for almost 2 decades, and I wrote the book Ice Wars on the history of the Islanders' rivalry with the Rangers from 1972 to the modern era. So glad you're with us today to talk a little Islanders hockey, and we've got a lot to discuss. Mathew Barzal says he's ready to go. He spoke to the media. We'll have the key takeaways and what it means for the Islanders. We'll talk about Patrick Roy's initial line combinations. He did spell out the top 9. And Anthony Duclair and Patrick Roy finally had that conversation. We'll talk about their situation and what that means for the Duke. All that and more on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. But let's start with Mathew Barzal. Barzy is the Islanders' most dynamic offensive player. He has been for several years, and here's a guy who really this team needs if they hope to have any chance of contending for a playoff spot this year. His season ended early February. He had a knee injury blocking a shot against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Only played 30 games all season, and obviously that was a huge loss for the Islanders, for their offense, for their power play, for I think even just the mood in the locker room. And you know, when you have a serious injury like that, it takes time, and everydayers may remember a week or two ago, Barzy kind of said he wasn't quite 100%. And it sounds like after this interview, he's still not 100%, but he's a lot more comfortable with where he's at and a lot more optimistic. Here's what Barzy had to say. I feel good. I feel like I've had a great summer. It forced me to be extremely focused this summer and put every drop of energy into getting back. I'm obviously a competitor. I don't take anything for granted, so I want to get back to where I was pre-injury. I think I did a great job this summer of getting my strength back, mentally getting stronger. I feel good. So what do we learn from this paragraph, this little statement here? First of all, he is getting his strength back, which obviously takes time, and that he's not quite back to how he felt pre-injury. And it was a bit of a battle for Mathew Barzal. He continues, I feel like I got a mentality when you have an injury like the one I did, you can go 2 ways with it mentally. You can kind of sulk in it and let it own you, and it did early on. Watching it kills you at times, but then you flip a switch and you put everything into rehab and getting better. So it's more just a mental, it's fully healed. It's good to go. There's no worries about that. Mentally, it's just a matter of doing what it takes to get back to being the player I was. So, you know, it sounds very much like this. Mathew Barzal physically pretty close to where he was pre-injury. And then it just becomes a question of mentally. And, you know, when we talk about mentally, anybody who's had an injury or surgery that required rehab, there's different components to it. There is the physical component, obviously. Can you do the things you did before the surgery as well as you did. Takes time. And then there's the mental aspect of it. And a lot of the mental aspect of it, I think, will be settled in training camp and in the preseason. Because the mental thing about it very often is like this. You say to yourself, when you get back into a similar situation where the injury was caused, and you ask your body in the case of a hockey player, a professional athlete, you ask your body to do the things that it was asked to do before the injury in game situations. How does it respond? And it is human nature, very simply, to have a little voice in the back of your head that says, I'm in the same situation that I was when I got hurt. Can my body respond? Can my body do what it used to do as well as it used to do it? And that little nagging voice probably stays there until you do it a few times and you realize, hey, it's not an issue anymore. I can play. I can get the job done. I'm back. And you go out there. And that's why this year's training camp and preseason, in my mind, are going to be a little bit more important for Mathew Barzal than, let's say, a year ago or 2 years ago. Mathew Barzal, for all of his flaws and his enormous talent, is the engine that makes the Islanders forwards go. He has more speed and skating ability, the ability to stop on a dime and change directions than any other player on the Islanders roster, especially among forwards. He is a good skater who, when he's on his game, can create time and space not only for himself, but for teammates. Because if he's changing direction and carrying the puck in the offensive zone, he very well may draw one or even multiple defenders to him, and then he could pass the puck to the open man, and voila, you've created a really good scoring opportunity. So if the Islanders hope to improve their 31st ranked power play and their 27th or 28th ranked goal production, they're going to need a healthy Mathew Barzal, or it just isn't going to happen. And, Barzy continued. He said, I've been skating for a little while now. I kind of know what it's like. I think it's going to be a good gauge. I'm not even thinking about it, putting an emphasis on it. As soon as I step on that ice, clear mind and work as hard as I can. And that's the attitude he has to have. And he also, kind of talked a little bit about whether he plays center or whether he plays wing. He said, we've talked about it a little bit. I'm excited to play anywhere. I love playing with Bo on the wing. I think me and Bo have great chemistry out there. Hopefully we could find ways to get us on the ice and still I feel like we give our team a good chance of scoring. If that is the plan, I'm excited. I'm ready for it. A little more involved, maybe. I'll play anywhere. At the end of the day, I love playing with Bo. We'll see how it all shakes out. And look, it's wide open, right? It's wide open for Mathew Barzal. He's going to start training camp at center. I would not be surprised at all, knowing Patrick Roy and the way he has traditionally juggled lines shift to shift, let alone game to game, period to period, where if the team is struggling, he's trying to find new combinations. It would not surprise me if Mathew Barzal plays center, he plays wing, he plays on a line separate from Bo Horvat. At times he'll play with Bo Horvat. Probably on the power play, they'll be reunited and able to play together more often. The beautiful thing about this is that the Islanders have some options. And we'll see. We'll see how it all plays out. But Mathew Barzal sounding more optimistic than he did the last time we heard from him. And again, he's got to go out there and do it. That is the key. You could talk all you want. You could skate on your own. You could practice. You got to get hit. You got to take a hit. You got to change direction with a guy bearing down on you, trying to hit you. You got to go back on the ice and do the thing. And hopefully Mathew Barzal is ready to go out on the ice and play hockey at a high level for the New York Islanders. And without a doubt, the Islanders need more than 30 games, 6 goals, and 20 points from Mathew Barzal this year if they hope to improve on last year's disappointing season. There's no way around it. We'll see, but a little more optimism from Barzy this week than in his previous statements. We've got a lot more to get to on today's show. Patrick Roy addressing the media, telling us his top 3 lines to start training camp. And it's interesting, and it's a little surprising in some areas. We'll break them down and discuss that. Also, he and Anthony Duclair spoke, and, oh yes, for our Islanders' birthday of the day, a tough one, an original Islander who only played a handful of games with the team in 72-73, their first season. But boy, oh boy, could he score in the minors. Some all-time great seasons for this Montreal native. Let's see if you can guess who it is. It's a hard one. We'll talk about him and his impact coming up next on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your first bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Again, if your first $5 bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. You like player props, or maybe building a same-game parlay to win even more, or you could jump on live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your favorite team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. So, are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet, and if that first bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets. FanDuel.com. Check it out today. Line combinations. Everybody wants to know. And as I said in the first segment, let's face it, line combinations with Patrick Roy change all the time. But he did tell the media on Monday that this was his plan to start training camp with the following top 3 line combinations. First line, Bo Horvat, Jonathan Drouin, Maxim Shabanov. That's the top line. Center, left wing, right wing. Second line, Mathew Barzal, centering Anders Lee and Kyle Palmieri. Third line, J.G. Pageau, centering Anthony Duclair and Simon Holmstrom. That's your top 9 with training camp just a couple of days away in the mind of the head coach, the guy who ultimately makes the decisions. Now, he did not break down a fourth line. And who are the guys who haven't been mentioned yet? Emil Heineman, not mentioned. Casey Cizikas, yet to be mentioned in this top 9. Pierre Engvall, not mentioned in this top 9. Maxim Siplikov, not yet mentioned in this top 9. So, a lot of guys who are, and Mark Gatcomb, not mentioned. So that's 5 guys off the top of my head battling for 3. Oh, and Kyle McLean, 6 guys battling for those 3 spots. And remember, most likely it's 3 spots on the 4th line, 2 spots as the reserve forwards, and then somebody's going down to Bridgeport or being traded or being placed on waivers and being claimed. So it will be interesting to see how it all plays out. The big surprise to me is having Maxim Shabanov start on the top line. It's not that I don't think he's capable, because I do. I just don't know if he's ready yet, if he's made the adjustment to the North American game. And, Shabanov and Drouin on the wings would give Bo Horvat 2 really fast wingers. But, is Shabanov ready? That's the big question. And I was under the impression, or I would be more in favor of him starting on the 3rd line and kind of working his way up. And, you could go with Palmieri or Holmstrom or even Duclair or Siplikov on that top line initially. Heck, you could even put Casey Cizikas there. The Islanders have done it before, although I don't think that's the best move. But my point is, I was very surprised that Maxim Shabanov was listed as the top line right wing. I think Barzal, Lee, and Palmieri, 3 veterans, 3 guys who have played together before. No problem with that. And then Pajot, Duclair, and Holmstrom is interesting because Duclair and Holmstrom are both speedy. That's going to be if you keep that line together and if Duclair is healthy. You got a lot more going on as far as a 3rd line that could be difficult to play against with the speed. Duclair can score if he's healthy. Holmstrom is kind of, a guy who may be able to get you 20 to 25 goals if he continues to develop. And then Pajot is Pajot. 10 to 15 goals most likely, kill your penalties, win your faceoffs. So that's the top 9 according to Patrick Waugh as of right now. But again, Patrick Waugh, very clear when he made his remarks. He said, I mean, it's just a start, things will change. I almost regret telling you because I feel like, you might look bad the next day because things might change overnight. You never know. And he went on to explain about Shabanov. I was watching a lot of clips of Shabanov when he was in the playoffs against a former player of mine, and they lost in the final, but he was playing really well. I mean, he's a small player, but I feel like he doesn't know he's small. So that's pretty intriguing for me, and I think for everyone here, because we're curious to see him, how he's going to bring his skills and everything. So when I put both the lineup and the quotes together, what do I see? And as I said before, this is very, very temporary. This is the starting point, not the ending point. And B, it means that Shabanov is going to get a long look, that his skill set has Waugh and the Islanders organization intrigued. Can he take the physical pounding? Can he get used to the more north-south game, the more physical game, the narrower size of the rink? How long does it take him to get used to living in the United States on Long Island? There is culture shock. Let's not ignore that. So we'll see. We'll see how it all ends up playing out. And, getting back to line combinations, I think we're talking about a situation where, notice we didn't mention Cal Ritchie. And everydayers, we talked about Cal Ritchie yesterday. Wasn't mentioned in this list. So, you've got 7 players going for 3 lineup spots among the forwards and 2 reserve spots. More competition this year heading into training camp than there has been in the recent past. And you know what? That's one of many things that this organization needed when things were getting a little bit stale under Lou Lamoriello. You need accountability. You need competition. And those are related. If there's nobody on the roster who can realistically take your place, that sense of urgency is not there. But if you're looking over your shoulder, because if I don't play well, they've got 2 guys sitting in the press box or down in Bridgeport who could come up and I could be in the press box or down in Bridgeport, that's something that's going to motivate players to play their best. So it's going to be fun. I am so looking forward to how this training camp, preseason, regular season is going to start. And it's just great to see. We are so close. We're a couple of days away from veterans reporting on Thursday, and it's an exciting time for Islander fans, for NHL fans. I love it. I love this time of year. We've got more to discuss on today's show. Anthony Duclair and Patrick Roy, they spoke, and we'll talk about how that went and what it means for the Duke and for the Islanders. Plus, we'll have our Islanders birthday of the day coming up next on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs. Put your post at the top of the page and help you find the right candidates faster. I've been in that spot when you need to hire like yesterday. The pressure is on, and every day without the right person is a setback. That's exactly when Indeed sponsored jobs come in handy. They make sure your post is seen by the right candidates right now. Now you could speed up your hiring process with a $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Again, that's Indeed.com and use code to Indeed.com/lockedon. Check it out right now. Hiring, Indeed is all you need. We all know what a mess the end of the season was for Anthony Duclair. I don't think there's any way around it. It just wasn't good. And yet, over the offseason, Patrick Roy said, hey, I haven't spoken to Anthony Duclair, but I'm going to. I don't want to just call him up. I'm going to speak to him in person. Well, that happened. And apparently things were ironed out. And Anthony Duclair gets to start again. Here's what Duclair had to say, addressing the media. I just felt like I came back too early. Came back skating too early, skated with the team too early, and just ended up playing too early. And that hindered me the rest of the season, basically playing on one leg. As a player, you don't want to be on the sidelines. You want to be playing out there, battling with the boys, and that's what I tried to do. But obviously it wasn't good for anyone, for me, to be out there. And basically, we know about Roy's comments. Every Dayers will remember. He just, called out Duclair after a game on April 1st. A 4-1 loss to Tampa Bay, said he was god-awful, etc., etc. And here's what Duclair said about their conversation. He apologized for his comments. I told him I didn't need an apology. I just needed him to know that I was playing hurt. He told me he really didn't know the extent of the injury. It was just a miscommunication by everyone, myself included. I'm feeling better out there and, should be ready to go. And here's what Wah had to say about it. I expressed to him my regrets. It's an emotional game, and sometimes you're saying things, but the outcome didn't do anything for good for us. I want to move forward to this year and really hope that Anthony will start like he did. Remember, he had a really good first 5 games before that injury because he had a really good start. And Duclair said that over the summer, he had a lot of rehab, a lot of recovery and stuff like that. I'm getting to a point where I'm almost feeling like I'm back to 100%. So I am feeling better, but there's still more work to do going through training camp. I'm putting last year behind me. I'm always excited for a new year. It's a lot of fresh faces, fresh start for everyone. And so for myself, I'm looking forward for a big year. I'm coming in confident, and hopefully that can put everything behind us and hopefully make the playoffs. So look, I want everyone to be on the same page here. The New York Islanders did not get a chance to see what a healthy Anthony Duclair could do. Maybe first 4 or 5 games of the year. He was productive. He had good chemistry on that top line last year with Bo and Barzal. And then obviously the injury, and he was never right after that. There's a lot of blame to go around. And it's good that everyone seems to be taking responsibility. Duclair for not communicating the extent of the injury enough to his coach, rushing to get back, which is something that almost all hockey players tend to do. And Wah for, basically saying too much in public to the media and calling him out in public. So all things considered, let's hope that Anthony Duclair is healthy and is able to contribute. And look, a healthy Anthony Duclair can give the Islanders, let's say, 15 to 20 goals, 45 to 55 points. If you can get 20 goals and 50 points, let's say, just to be round about it, from Anthony Duclair in the middle 6, that'll really help the Islanders. He could help on the power play. We know how dreadful that has been. Let's hope they could turn the page, get on the same page, and work together toward winning some hockey games. Time now for our Islanders birthday of the day. This is a hard one. If you get this one from the clues, more power to you. Today's Islanders birthday of the day is Richard Grenier. He was a 5th-round pick of the Islanders in 1972, their first year. Spent most of the year in the minors with the New Haven Nighthawks, played 10 games with the Islanders, 1 goal, 2 points. He was only a -2, which is very impressive, 2 penalty minutes. That was his entire NHL career. Played 34 games in the WHA. But man, when this kid was in the minors, in 1975-76, playing in the North American Hockey League, which is where the Long Island Cougars used to play, but he played for the Buse Jaros. He had 77 goals and 160 points in 73 games. He was just insanely good. Had another 46-goal season playing for the Broome Dusters. Again, a great minor league player. Finished his career in Europe, in Austria. But those 10 games with the Islanders were his NHL career. His best game as an Islander, how about January 23rd, 1973, Islanders hosting the California Golden Seals at the Nassau Coliseum. Marv Edwards for the Seals in goal. Jerry Desjardins is the goalie for the Islanders. And in this game, with the Islanders up 1-0, our Islanders' birthday of the day, Richard Grenier scores his first NHL goal. Craig Cameron and Tom Miller, the assists. That made it 2-0. Reggie Leach made it 2-1, but then the Islanders just blew out the Seals, beating them by a score of 8-1. For Richard Grenier, our Islanders' birthday of the day, he had a goal. It was the game winner. He had 2 shots on goal, and Craig Cameron had a hat trick and an assist in this game. Jerry Desjardins, 30 saves. But First, last, and only career NHL goal for Richard Grenier. But boy, what a great player he was in the minors over the course of his career. Richard Grenier is our Islanders' birthday of the day. Thank you for making Locked On Islanders your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NHL podcast. There is no offseason. We're bringing you the daily league-wide stories that matter most with the local coverage you love from Locked On. Find Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. If you have a question, a comment, maybe a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future episode of Locked On Islanders, email us at lockedonislanders@gmail.com. And if you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever's on your mind. You can follow the show on X at Locked On Isles, and you can follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars, NYRVSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders all year long, and it's great to talk Islanders hockey with you anytime. Everydayers, we're back tomorrow. Training camp closing in. We'll have more stories from rookie camp, any more quotes, any more newsworthy information as we get you ready for the upcoming Islanders season. And again, love this time of year. Have a great day, everybody. Stay safe. And of course, let's go Islanders.